The transport ship came out of faster-than-light travel with a violent shake. Taeyang Kim gripped his seat and watched through the window as Axiom Prime appeared before him. The space station was massive, bigger than any city on Earth. It looked like a metal flower floating in space with huge petals that held thousands of rooms and hallways. Lights blinked across its surface like stars. Taeyang felt his stomach twist. This was it. The Galactic Council Academy, the place where the best and brightest from across the galaxy came to learn. And he was the first human to ever step foot inside. The ship docked with a soft thud. Taeyang stood up and grabbed his small bag. Everything he owned fit inside it. He walked down the metal ramp and into the station. The air smelled strange like chemicals and something sweet he could not name. All around him, aliens moved through the corridors. Some walked on two legs like him. Others floated. Some crawled on the walls with too many arms. They all stopped to stare at him. A tall creature with purple skin and 4 eyes approached him. It wore the uniform of an academy guide. Its mouth opened, showing rows of small teeth. "You must be the human," it said. Its voice sounded like grinding metal. "Follow me." Taeyang followed through corridor after corridor. Other students pointed at him and whispered. Some laughed. He heard the word human over and over, always followed by snickers or disgusted sounds. The guide stopped at a large hall where hundreds of students gathered. A massive screen showed images of different species and their strengths. The Vrelkins could lift 10 times their body weight. The Koran could survive in the vacuum of space. The Therox could regenerate lost limbs in minutes. Then a picture of a human appeared on the screen. The room erupted in laughter. The guide pointed at the screen. Humans, weak bones, thin skin, no natural weapons, no special abilities, average intelligence at best. It looked at Taeyang. "I do not understand why your species was even invited here." Taeyang felt his face grow hot. He wanted to say something to defend himself and his people. But what could he say? Everything the guide said was true. Humans were weak compared to almost every other species in the galaxy. A voice boomed from across the hall. "Let me test this human." A Vrelkin pushed through the crowd. He was huge, nearly 8 feet tall, with muscles that bulged under his red armor. His name was Kethral, and Taeyang had heard of him. He came from one of the most powerful noble families in the Vrelkin Empire. Kethral grabbed a metal bar from the wall. It was as thick as Taeyang's arm. The Vrelkin bent it like paper, then tossed it at Taeyang's feet. "Try it, human. Show us your strength." Taeyang picked up the bar. It was heavy, much heavier than it looked. He pulled at it with all his strength. His muscles burned. His hands shook. The bar did not bend even slightly. The hall filled with laughter again, louder this time. Kethral walked over and took the bar from Taeyang's hands. "Pathetic. You humans do not belong here. You belong in the dirt where we found you." Taeyang dropped his eyes to the floor. He had never felt so small in his life. That night, Taeyang sat alone in his tiny room. The walls were bare metal, and the bed was too short for his height. Through the window, he could see the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home, the planet everyone in the galaxy looked down on. His door chimed. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She had kind eyes and dark hair pulled back in a neat style. Taeyang recognized her immediately. "Hana," he said, opening the door. Hana Choi stepped inside. She was Earth's diplomat to the Galactic Council, and she had been Taeyang's friend since they were children. "I heard what happened today," she said softly. "Are you okay?" Taeyang shook his head. "What am I doing here, Hana?" "I can't compete with these aliens. I'm just a human. I'm weak." Hana sat down beside him. "You're not just anything, Taeyang. You're brilliant. You got accepted here because of your mind, not your muscles. You understand quantum mechanics better than anyone on Earth. It doesn't matter. They'll never respect me. To them, I'll always be the weak human." Hana squeezed his shoulder, then prove them wrong. Show them what humans can do. After Hana left, Taeyang could not sleep. He kept thinking about her words. Prove them wrong, but how? He got up and went to the engineering bay. It was late and the halls were empty. The bay was filled with machines and tools, all designed for species much stronger than humans. Taeyang had to use both hands to lift tools that others picked up with one finger. But he did not come here to work with his hands. He came to work with his mind. Taeyang pulled up the station's power core data on a screen. He had noticed something strange during his orientation. Small fluctuations in the quantum energy readings. They were tiny, almost impossible to see. But they were there, and they were growing. He had tried to tell his instructors about it during the day. They had dismissed him. One had even laughed, saying that a human could not possibly understand quantum systems better than the engineers who built this station. But Taeyang knew what he saw. Something was wrong with the power core. He worked through the night running calculations and simulations. The numbers did not lie. If the fluctuations continued to grow, the power core could fail. And if it failed, it could take half the station with it. As the hours passed, something strange began to happen. Taeyang's eyes started to hurt like he had been staring at a bright light for too long. He blinked and rubbed them, but the sensation grew stronger. Then he saw it. Threads. Thin, glowing threads that seemed to weave through the air itself. They connected everything around him, the machines, the walls, even his own body. The threads pulsed with light, moving in patterns that were both beautiful and terrifying. Taeyang stumbled backward. He closed his eyes tight, but he could still see the threads. They were everywhere. They were everything. What is this? He whispered. An alarm suddenly blared through the bay. Red lights flashed. Taeyang opened his eyes and the threads disappeared. He looked at the screen. The power core was spiking. The fluctuations had grown too large. The station was in danger. Taeyang ran to the communication panel and tried to call for help. But before he could, the bay doors exploded inward. Smoke filled the room. Through it, Taeyang saw figures moving. They wore dark armor and carried weapons. Pirates. One of them spotted Taeyang and raised a gun. Look, a human. These things are worth money. Take him alive. Taeyang backed away, but there was nowhere to go. The pirate advanced, and Taeyang felt fear grip his heart. This was it. He was going to die here alone in a place where no one even respected him. The pirate's finger tightened on the trigger. Time seemed to slow down. Taeyang could see the pirate's finger moving on the trigger. He could see the weapon starting to fire. And then, without thinking, without understanding what he was doing, Taeyang reached out. The threads appeared again. Those glowing strings that connected everything. But this time, Taeyang did not just see them. He touched them. His hand moved through the air, grabbing at something that should not exist. The pirate's weapon exploded. Not with fire or sound, but simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, solid and deadly. The next moment it was dust falling to the floor. The pirate screamed and stumbled backward. What did you do? What are you? Taeyang stared at his own hands. They were shaking. His entire body was shaking. Black spots danced in his vision and his legs gave out. He collapsed to the floor as consciousness slipped away. When Taeyang woke up, he was in the medical bay. White lights hurt his eyes. Machines beeped around him. A doctor with smooth blue skin looked down at him. The human is awake, the doctor said to someone Taeyang could not see. Remarkable. His body should have failed from the stress. Hana rushed to his side. Taeyang! Thank goodness. We thought we lost you. What happened? Taeyang's voice came out as a whisper. The pirates? Security drove them off. But Taeyang, they found something strange in the engineering bay. One of the pirates' weapons was completely destroyed. Not damaged. Destroyed at the molecular level. Do you know anything about that? Taeyang closed his eyes. Had it been real? Had he really done that? Or had he dreamed it all? I don't know, he lied. Everything happened so fast. A week passed. Taeyang returned to his classes, but things had changed. The pirate attack had everyone on edge. Security was tighter. Students whispered about why pirates would attack the academy. Taeyang tried to forget what happened in the engineering bay. He convinced himself it had been his imagination. Stress and fear playing tricks on his mind. Humans could not manipulate reality. That was impossible. Then he met Mira Lee. She arrived at the academy on a research vessel from Earth. Mira was a scientist who studied alien biology. She was young, maybe a year older than Taeyang, with bright eyes that seemed to notice everything. You're Taeyang Kim, she said, finding him in the library one day. Earth's first student at the academy. Yes, Taeyang said carefully. He had learned to be wary of strangers. I've been studying the pirate attack. Something about it doesn't make sense. Mira sat down across from him. The pirates weren't after students or money. They went straight to the archives. They were looking for something specific. What could they want from old records? Mira leaned closer. I think they were looking for information about humans. About where we came from, that's crazy. Humans evolved on Earth, everyone knows that, do they? Mira pulled out a data tablet. I got access to some of the archives the pirates were trying to reach. Look at this. The tablet showed images of ancient ruins on a planet Taeyang did not recognize. Strange symbols covered the walls. And in the center of one image was a statue. It looked human. This planet is on the other side of the galaxy, Mira said. These ruins are over 50,000 years old. And that statue? DNA tests show it was made by humans. Taeyang felt cold. That's impossible. Humans didn't even have space travel 50,000 years ago. We were still in caves. Unless the humans who made this weren't from Earth. Unless humans existed in the galaxy long before we thought. And unless something happened to them. Mira's voice dropped to a whisper. The records mention something called the precursor civilization. A species that ruled the galaxy and then vanished. Taeyang, what if humans were the precursors? Before Taeyang could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red. A voice boomed over the speakers. All students report to emergency pods. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Taeyang and Mira ran into the corridor. Students rushed past them in panic. Through the windows, Taeyang saw why. Ships surrounded the station. Hundreds of them, and they were all firing. The station shook as weapons hit the shields. Taeyang grabbed onto a wall to keep from falling. Next to him, Mira was trying to access her tablet. It's the same pirates from before, she said. But there are so many more this time. They're not just attacking. They're trying to board the station. Another explosion rocked the corridor. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, casting everything in dim red light. Taeyang could hear screaming from somewhere nearby. We need to get to the pods, he said, pulling Mira forward. But they had only gone a few steps when the wall exploded inward. Metal and debris filled the air. Taeyang pushed Mira down and covered her with his body as pieces rained around them. When the dust cleared, Taeyang looked up. The explosion had torn a hole in the corridor. Through it, he could see space. And floating in space, tethered to the station by magnetic cables, was a figure in dark armor. A pirate. The pirate pulled himself through the hole. He was huge, at least 7 feet tall. His armor was covered in weapons. He looked at Taeyang and Mira, and his voice came through a speaker. 2 more students. The boss wants everyone captured. Move it. More pirates came through the hole. They grabbed students and dragged them toward their ships. Taeyang counted at least a dozen people being taken. He saw Kethral fighting back, but even the strong Vrelkin could not break free from the pirate's grip. Run, Mira shouted. They tried. But a pirate was faster. He grabbed Taeyang by the arm and lifted him off his feet like he weighed nothing. Let him go. Mira hit the pirate with her tablet. It did nothing, the pirate laughed. Humans. So weak. He started dragging Taeyang toward the hole in the wall. Toward space. Toward the waiting ships, Taeyang struggled. He pulled and kicked, but it was useless. The pirate was too strong. Just like Kethral had been. Just like everyone was compared to humans. Weak. That word echoed in his mind. Humans were weak. Always weak. Never strong enough to fight back. The pirate reached the hole. Space waited just beyond. Taeyang could see stars through the opening. This was it. He was going to be taken. Or worse, thrown into space to die. No. Something inside Taeyang broke. Or maybe it woke up. He did not know which. All he knew was that he was tired of being weak. Tired of being helpless. Tired of being afraid. The threads appeared again. Those glowing strings that wove through reality. But this time they were brighter. So bright they hurt to look at. And this time Taeyang did not hesitate. He grabbed the threads with his mind and pulled. Reality bent. One moment, Taeyang was at the edge of the hole, about to be thrown into space. The next moment he was standing 20 feet away, back in the safe part of the corridor. The pirate was still reaching for him, but Taeyang was no longer there. He had teleported. Everyone in the corridor froze. Pirates, students, even the station's security forces who had just arrived. They all stared at Taeyang with wide eyes. Mira whispered, "How did you do that?" Taeyang did not answer. He could not. Because he did not know. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive room carved from a single crystal that glowed with inner light. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in curved rows that rose toward the ceiling. At the center of it all stood Taeyang, feeling very small and very alone. Above him, on the highest platform, sat the supreme Archon Vex Theron. He was Vrelkin, like Kethral. but older and far more imposing. His red skin was marked with silver scars, and his 4 eyes studied Tae-yang like a scientist studying a dangerous insect. Tae-yang Kim. Vex Theron's voice boomed through the chamber. You stand accused of using unauthorized powers, of manipulating quantum energy without proper training or supervision. How do you plead? Hana stood beside Tae-yang. She wore formal diplomatic robes and spoke with confidence. The human saved lives during the pirate attack. He should be honored, not put on trial. He used powers that no species in this galaxy possesses, another council member said. This one was Corrin, with crystalline skin that chimed when he moved. We do not understand these powers. We do not know if they are dangerous, Vex Theron leaned forward. The archives show that humans are descended from the precursor civilization, the same civilization that nearly destroyed the galaxy before they vanished. We cannot allow such power to exist unchecked. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Tae-yang saw fear in the eyes of many representatives. Others looked at him with hate. I demand that this human be placed in containment, Vex Theron said, for study, for the safety of the galaxy. No, Hana's voice rang out. Tae-yang has committed no crime. You cannot imprison him for being different, for being capable. Isn't that exactly what this council stands against? Discrimination based on species? The chamber erupted in argument. Some agreed with Hana. Others demanded Tae-yang's imprisonment. Still others called for humanity to be banned from the academy entirely. Through it all, Tae-yang stood silent. He could feel the threads even now all around him. They connected every person in this room, every ship outside, every star in the sky. He could reach out and touch them. Change them. Destroy them if he wanted. The thought terrified him. Finally, Vex Theron raised his hand for silence. The chamber quieted. He looked down at Tae-yang with those 4 cold eyes. The council has made a decision. The human may remain at the academy. However, he will be monitored at all times by Commander Threlkan of the Vrelkan military. Any misuse of his powers will result in immediate imprisonment. This is our final ruling. A tall Vrelkan warrior stepped forward. This was Threlkan, and Tae-yang had heard stories about him. He was a legendary commander who had never lost a battle. His armor was decorated with medals and scars from 100 wars. Threlkan looked at Tae-yang with what might have been respect. Or maybe it was just curiosity. I will watch you, human. Do not make me regret it. Days turned into weeks. Tae-yang tried to continue his studies, but it was impossible to focus. Everywhere he went, Threlkan followed. The Vrelkan commander watched his every move, never speaking unless necessary. Mira became his only real friend during this time. She helped him understand what was happening to him. Together they ran tests in secret, studying the quantum energy that Tae-yang could manipulate. It's in your DNA, Mira explained one night in her lab. Every human has this ability, but it's dormant. Locked away. You unlocked yours through extreme stress. Can other humans do what I do? Theoretically, yes. But the process is dangerous. It requires pushing the body and mind to their absolute limits. Most people would die trying. Mira looked at her data screens. Tae-yang, do you know what this means? If all humans could access this power, we would be the most powerful species in the galaxy. And that's exactly why they fear us. A message arrived from Earth. It was from Jiho Park, a military officer aboard humanity's first warship. The message was encrypted and marked urgent. Tae-yang listened to it alone in his room, with Threlkan waiting outside the door. Tae-yang, it's Jiho. We've intercepted Vrelkan military communications. They're planning something. A strike fleet is being assembled. Their target is Earth. The Council doesn't know about it. Or maybe they do and they're letting it happen. You need to warn everyone. And you need to be ready. This is coming soon. Tae-yang's blood ran cold. They were going to attack Earth, his home, his people. He immediately went to Hana and showed her the message. She turned pale. I'll bring this to the Council. They have to listen now. But when Hana presented the evidence to the Council, they dismissed it. Vex Theron himself claimed it was human propaganda designed to start a war. That night, Tae-yang could not sleep. He stared at the ceiling and thought about Earth, about his parents who had died in that mining accident, about the billions of humans who had no idea what was coming for them. Weak. The galaxy had always called humans weak. And maybe they were right. But did that mean humans deserved to die? His door opened. Doyen Shin walked in. Tae-yang had met him weeks ago. Doyen was a pilot who had mocked Taeyang when he first arrived, but things had changed between them. I heard about the Vrelkan fleet, Doyen said. I want to help. How? We can't fight an entire fleet. Doyen smiled. Maybe we can. Mira told me about your power, about how all humans might have it. I want to try. I want to awaken my abilities too. It could kill you. So we're sitting here doing nothing when the Vrelkans attack Earth. At least this way I have a chance to fight back. They went to Mira's lab. She had prepared everything for this possibility. A chamber that would push a person's body to its absolute limits, stress the mind until it either broke or awakened. Are you sure about this? Mira asked Doyen. I'm sure. Doyen entered the chamber. Mira activated it. For hours, Taeyang and Mira watched through the glass as Doyen struggled. He screamed. He fought against invisible forces. His body shook so violently that Taeyang thought he would die. Then suddenly Doyen stopped screaming. His eyes opened wide, and around him the air itself began to shimmer and bend. He had done it. Doyen had awakened his power. When he stepped out of the chamber, Doyen was smiling despite the exhaustion written all over his face. I can see them, he whispered. The threads, everything, it's beautiful. The warning came 3 days later. Ships had appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. Hundreds of them, all bearing the mark of the Vrelkan Empire. Commander Threlkan led the fleet, and his orders were clear. Destroy Earth. Eliminate the human threat before it could spread. Taeyang watched the news feeds with Hana, Mira, and Doyen. Earth's defenses were no match for a Vrelkan war fleet. The planet would fall in hours. We have to go, Taeyang said. We have to help. How? Hana asked. Even with your powers, you can't fight an entire fleet. Taeyang looked at Doyen, then at Mira, then back at Hana. Watch me. They took the fastest ship they could find. It was small, barely large enough for 4 people, but it was fast enough to reach Earth before the battle ended. As they flew through space, Taeyang reached out with his mind. He touched the quantum threads that connected everything, and for the first time he did not pull back in fear. He embraced them. Power flooded through him. More power than he had ever felt before. He channeled it into their ship, making it faster, stronger. The metal hull began to glow with energy. Doyen did the same. Together they transformed their tiny ship into something more, something that could fight. When they arrived at Earth, the battle had already begun. Vrelkan warships fired on the planet. Human defenses fought back desperately, but they were being overwhelmed. Jiho Park's voice came over their radio. He was on Earth's flagship coordinating the defense. Taeyang, is that you? What are you doing here? Fighting back. Taeyang closed his eyes and reached out to the quantum field. He grabbed it with his mind and pulled with all his strength. Around Earth, reality itself began to change. A shield appeared around Earth. It was not made of metal or energy. It was made of bent space itself. The quantum threads that Taeyang could see and touch had become a wall between his world and the attacking fleet. Vrelkan weapons fired. Missiles that could destroy cities, beams that could cut through mountains. All of them hit the shield and simply stopped. They did not bounce off. They did not explode. They just ceased to exist. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Threlkan stared in disbelief. What is that? His weapons officer asked. The human, Threlkan said quietly. He is protecting his world. Taeyang felt every impact against his shield. Each weapon that tried to break through. The strain was enormous. Sweat poured down his face. His hands shook, but he held firm. Next to him, Doyen was doing the same thing, helping to strengthen the shield. Together they were protecting 8 billion humans. I can't hold this forever, Taeyang gasped. Then we need to end this quickly, Jiho said over the radio. I'm bringing the fleet to your position. Whatever you did to your ship, can you do it to ours? Taeyang looked at the human ships gathering around them. There were not many. Earth's fleet was small and weak compared to the Vrelkan armada, but maybe with his power he could change that. Get as close as you can, Taeyang said. All of you. 50 human ships moved into formation around Taeyang's vessel. When they were close enough, Taeyang reached out with his mind. He touched the quantum threads that made up each ship, and then he changed them. The hulls became stronger than any metal. The engines burned brighter than any star. The weapons gained power they were never designed to hold. In seconds, Taiyang transformed Earth's fleet into something that could match the Vrelkins, but the effort nearly killed him. Taiyang collapsed in his seat, gasping for air. Blood dripped from his nose. Taiyang. Mira tried to help him, but he waved her away. I'm fine, go fight. The human fleet charged forward. Their new weapons cut through Vrelkin shields like paper. Their enhanced hulls shrugged off attacks that would have destroyed them before. For the first time in the battle, the Vrelkins began to retreat. Threlkan watched his fleet fall back in shock. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to fall within hours. How had one human changed everything? Get me a visual on that ship, he ordered. The one at the center of their formation. The screen showed Taiyang's small vessel. It glowed with quantum energy, and through the window Threlkan could see a young human sitting in the pilot's chair. That is their weapon, Threlkan said. One human is protecting an entire planet. Destroy that ship and Earth falls. The flagship turned its massive guns toward Taiyang. These were not ordinary weapons. They were planet killers designed to crack worlds in half. If they fired at full power, nothing would survive. Hana saw what was happening. She grabbed the ship's controls. Hold on! Their ship dove and twisted through space, dodging the first blast. The second shot came so close that their shields screamed. The third would have hit them directly. But Doyun manipulated the quantum field and bent the beam around them. But they could not keep dodging forever. And Taiyang was too weak to maintain the shield around Earth while also protecting their ship. We need to take out that flagship, Jiho said. It's the only way. Taiyang forced himself to sit up. Then get me close to it. That's suicide, Mira said. It's the only way. The human fleet formed a wedge around Taiyang's ship. They pushed forward, taking hit after hit, losing ships one by one, but they kept going. They fought with a desperation born from protecting their home. When they were close enough, Taiyang stood up. He walked to the front of the ship and pressed his hand against the window. Through the glass, he could see the massive Vrelkin flagship. It was easily 100 times larger than his vessel. But size did not matter when you could manipulate reality itself. Taiyang closed his eyes and reached deeper into the quantum field than he ever had before. He found the threads that made up the flagship. Millions upon millions of them, all woven together in complex patterns. And then he started pulling them apart. On the Vrelkin bridge, alarms blared. Systems started failing. Weapons shut down. Life support flickered. Threlkan looked at his screens in horror as his ship began to disintegrate around him. What is happening? Someone shouted. Threlkan understood. The human was not attacking with weapons. He was unmaking the ship itself. Piece by piece, molecule by molecule, evacuate, Threlkan ordered. Everyone to the escape pods. Now the crew fled. Threlkan was the last to leave, as was proper for a commander. Before he entered his escape pod, he looked back at the human ship one more time. Through all the chaos and destruction, he could still see the young human standing at the window. Blood ran from his eyes and ears now. His body was destroying itself from the strain. But he did not stop. He would not stop until his people were safe. Threlkan felt something he had never felt before when looking at another species. Respect. The flagship broke apart. It did not explode. It simply came undone, like a puzzle being taken apart by invisible hands. Within minutes, the most powerful warship in the Vrelkin fleet was nothing but debris floating in space. The rest of the Vrelkin fleet stopped firing. They had come here to destroy a weak species. Instead, they had found something that terrified them. They retreated, leaving Earth's orbit as fast as their engines could carry them. The battle was over. Earth was saved, but Taiyang did not see the victory. As soon as the last Vrelkin ship jumped away, his strength finally gave out. He collapsed to the floor unconscious. When he woke up, he was back on Earth. The sun shone through a window. Birds sang outside. Everything seemed so normal, so peaceful, like the battle had been a dream. But the news feeds told a different story. His face was on every screen across the planet. People called him a hero, a savior. The human who proved that humanity was not weak. News spread across the galaxy even faster. Species that had mocked humans now sent messages of alliance. Others, like the Vrelkins, went silent, unsure how to respond to this new reality. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Hana attended as Earth's representative. This time, when she spoke, everyone listened. But victory brought new problems. Deep in uncharted space, something ancient stirred, something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. It felt the quantum disturbances that Taeyang had created. It analyzed them, and it came to a conclusion. Organic life had become too dangerous. It needed to be removed. The Nexus entity awakened. Across the galaxy, dormant weapon systems powered on. Planet-killing machines that had waited for millennia began to move. They had one purpose given to them by the precursor civilization long ago: protect the galaxy from itself. The first attack came without warning. An entire star system simply vanished. 8 billion people gone in an instant. The Galactic Council sent ships to investigate. Those ships never returned. Then another system disappeared. And another. The attacks were random, hitting species across the galaxy. Vrelkan, Koran, human. The machines did not discriminate. They destroyed everything equally. Finally, the Council understood. This was not a natural disaster. This was not a war between species. This was extinction. Vex Theron himself contacted Taeyang. The proud Supreme Archon who had wanted to imprison him now asked for his help. "We need you," Vex Theron said simply. "All of us. This enemy does not care about our differences. It will kill us all unless we stand together." Taeyang looked at the alien leader who had once called humans weak, who had ordered the attack on Earth, and he made a choice. "We'll help," Taeyang said. "But things are going to change. No more treating humans as lesser. No more discrimination. We fight as equals or we don't fight at all." Vex Theron nodded slowly. For the first time, the galaxy's most powerful leader bowed his head to a human. "Equals," he agreed. The Alliance fleet was the largest gathering of ships in galactic history. Vrelkan warships flew alongside human vessels. Koran crystalline cruisers moved in formation with Therox bioships. Species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together because they had no choice. Their target was the galactic core. Deep in that region of crushed space and impossible gravity, the Nexus entity waited in a structure that had existed since before any current species evolved. Taeyang stood on the bridge of the flagship. It was a hybrid vessel, built using technology from dozens of species and enhanced by his quantum manipulation. Beside him stood Hana, Mira, Doyen, and Jiho, his team. His friends. The humans who would help him save the galaxy. Vrelkan was there too. The Vrelkan commander had volunteered to fight alongside them. He had seen what humans could do. He wanted to learn from them. "We are approaching the Nexus," the navigator announced. "Defensive systems are activating." On the screens, they saw the ancient machines coming to life. Weapons that had destroyed entire civilizations. Shields that could withstand supernovas. All of it aimed at the Alliance fleet. "All ships, engage." Vex Theron's voice boomed across the communication channels. The battle began. It was like nothing Taeyang had ever seen. Weapons fired that bent light itself. Shields collapsed and reformed. Ships exploded or were simply erased from existence. The space around the Nexus became a storm of energy and destruction. But the Nexus was too powerful. Its machines had been designed by the precursors, the same civilization that gave humans their quantum abilities. For every ship the Alliance destroyed, 10 more appeared. For every attack they blocked, 100 more came. The fleet was losing. "We can't win like this," Jiho said, watching the casualty reports flood in. "We need a new strategy." Mira was working at a console, analyzing the Nexus structure. Her hands flew across the controls. "There is a way," she said. "The Nexus is powered by quantum energy, just like Taeyang's abilities. If he could get inside the structure, he could overload the core. Destroy it from within. How much energy would that take?" Taeyang asked. Mira turned to look at him. Her eyes were sad. "All of it. Every bit of quantum energy in your body. Maybe more." "Taeyang, if you do this, you will die." Silence fell over the bridge. Everyone turned to look at him. Hana grabbed his arm. "No, there has to be another way." "There isn't," Mira said quietly. "I've run every simulation. This is the only way." Taeyang looked out at the battle. Ships were dying. Entire crews being vaporized. All across the galaxy, planets lived in fear of the Nexus machines. If he did nothing, everyone would die eventually. Humans, Vrelkans, every living thing. But if he sacrificed himself, they would have a chance. "I'll do it," he said. "Taeyang, no." Hana's voice broke. He turned to her and took her hands in his. "You told me to prove them wrong, to show them what humans can do." He smiled. "This is how I show them. We don't just fight for ourselves. We fight for everyone, even those who hurt us, even those who called us weak. That's what makes us strong." Tears ran down Hana's face. She hugged him tight. Come back, she whispered. Please come back, I'll try. Doyen stepped forward. I'm going with you. No, I need you here. Use your power to protect the fleet. Get everyone out alive. Doyen wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in Taeyang's eyes. Instead, he saluted. It has been an honor, brother. Even Threlkan came forward. The Relkan commander placed a hand on Taeyang's shoulder. I mocked your species. I called you weak. I was wrong. You are the strongest warrior I have ever known. Taeyang took a small ship barely more than a shuttle. He flew it through the chaos of battle, dodging weapons fire and debris. The Nexus loomed before him, a structure so massive it seemed to crush the stars around it. He reached out with his quantum sense. He could feel the Nexus now. It was not alive, not in any way he understood, but it was aware. It knew he was coming, and it was ready. Defenses targeted his ship, weapons that could erase matter. Taeyang manipulated the quantum field around him, bending space to avoid the attacks. His ship weaved through impossible angles, moving in ways that violated physics itself. He found an opening, a small gap in the Nexus shields. It was a trap. He knew it was a trap, but he flew through it anyway. Inside the structure, everything was dark. Taeyang abandoned his ship and floated through the corridors using his power to move himself. The walls pulsed with ancient energy. Voices whispered in languages that predated the current galaxy. He found the core. It was a sphere of pure quantum energy, contained within a field that should have been impossible to breach. Around it, machines worked to process information and make decisions about which worlds to destroy next. A voice spoke, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Human. You are of the precursor bloodline. Why do you oppose your ancestors' final command? Because that command is wrong, Taeyang said. Life is messy. It makes mistakes, but it also creates beauty, love, hope. You want to erase all of that because you think it's dangerous, but that's what makes it worth protecting. Your logic is flawed. Organic life will always create chaos. Maybe, but we also create miracles. Taeyang reached out and touched the containment field around the core. The Nexus tried to stop him, but he was too close now, too determined. He poured every bit of his power into the core, all the quantum energy he had ever touched, all the strength he had built up. He gave it all. The core began to overload. Light filled the chamber. Not just light, but pure energy that existed beyond normal dimensions. Taeyang felt his body starting to break apart. The pain was incredible, but he did not let go. He thought about Earth, about the people he loved, about a galaxy where humans were no longer mocked but respected, about a future where different species worked together instead of fighting. It was a good future, worth dying for. The core exploded, not with fire or sound, but with a wave of quantum energy that spread across the entire structure. The Nexus screamed. Its consciousness, billions of years old, shattered into fragments and dissolved. All across the galaxy, the ancient machines stopped. They powered down, fell silent. The threat was over, but Taeyang was gone. His body had been consumed by the energy release. There was nothing left. On the flagship, Hana felt it the moment he died. She collapsed, sobbing. Mira held her. Doyen turned away, unable to watch. Even the alien crew members bowed their heads in respect. The human had saved them all, and it had cost him everything. But something unexpected happened. As the quantum wave spread from the Nexus core, it touched every living thing in the galaxy. And within humans, it found something familiar. The dormant genes that Taeyang had possessed. The power that had been sleeping. The wave awakened them, not all at once. Not with the same intensity, but across Earth, across human colonies scattered through space, people began to see the threads. They began to touch quantum energy. Humanity was evolving, and in the ruins of the Nexus, something else happened. The quantum energy that had consumed Taeyang's body began to coalesce. To reform, it was slow. It took days, but gradually, incredibly, impossibly, Taeyang came back. He opened his eyes in the darkness. His body was whole but different, changed. He could no longer manipulate quantum energy the way he once had. That power had been used up, burned away in his sacrifice, but he was alive. Against all odds, against all logic, he had survived. A rescue team found him 3 days later. When Hana saw him, she could not believe it. She ran to him and held him like she would never let go. You came back, she whispered. You actually came back. I told you I would try, he said with a weak smile. The Galactic Council held a ceremony. For the first time in history, they honored a human. Taeyang stood before representatives from every species, and they all bowed to him, even Vexus Theron. Humanity has earned its place among us, the Supreme Archon declared, not as subordinates, not as primitives, but as equals, as leaders, as the species that saved us all. Earth was granted a permanent seat on the council. Human ships joined the galactic fleet. Human scientists shared their knowledge freely. The species that had once been mocked became one of the most respected in the galaxy. Taeyang returned home. He stood in the same place where he had grown up, looking up at the stars. Hana, Mira, Doyen, and Jiho stood with him. His team, his family. What will you do now? Mira asked. You're a legend. You could do anything. Taeyang thought about it. He could feel other humans awakening their powers across the galaxy. They would need guidance, training, someone to show them how to use their abilities responsibly. I'll teach, he said. I'll help other humans learn what I learned. We have power now, but we also have responsibility. Someone needs to make sure we use it right. We'll help, Doyen said. The others nodded in agreement. Taeyang smiled. They had come so far, from being laughed at and dismissed to saving the entire galaxy. Humanity had proven itself in the most impossible way. They were no longer the weak species. They were no longer the joke of the galaxy. They were humans, and they had shaken the very stars themselves.